he worked with Siemens on SAP. Then he did his MBA in finance from Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune, and then started working with JP Morgan as an investment banker. He worked with JP Morgan for a couple of years, and then he decided to move and take the plunge for entrepreneurship. And that's when he started JNS Commodities and Specialities Private Limited. He's currently the director of JNS, which is a venture that he manages along with one of his relatives. So thank you so much, Saurabh. That's a brief introduction, I would say. If there's anything more, please let me know that I can add on this. As for the session today, Saurabh has prepared a very crisp docket for the audience here. In fact, he has really worked hard on this, and I can tell you from the fact that we have had multiple conversations over phone and WhatsApp. He trying to put together this docket, making sure that he does justice to the time, he does justice to the activity that we are looking out for. So we're really grateful and appreciate all the efforts that you're putting in, Saurabh, for these young budding professionals. And over to you if there are any introductory remarks that you would want to share, and then I can get started with the discussion.
Thank you so much, Umar. About the presentation, I would like to joke that what good is a banker if he can't put together a bunch of slides. So besides the point, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm glad you invited me. I feel sorry for the folks to be listening to me on a Sunday morning. I remember my days during B school. We used to look forward to some guest lectures and we used to just sit through some of them. So yeah, I can feel your pain. So so Umar asked me to, just take you guys through to what's been my journey from my education background to working in corporate life and then going about on my own and starting my own business. So I just like to, walk you guys through all of that and kind of just share the experiences, the learnings, the mistakes that I have made, and hopefully, they would be of some value to you. I just start off, and please keep it as interactive as possible because this is a topic which needs discussion and it's not something of a lecture kind of a thing, it's not a notebook session. So feel free to disturb anytime, put any questions that you may have in your mind, because this is a discussion-based topic. So just to take you through quickly. So this has been, in short, the timeline that I have had. Like most people, who are here sitting, engineering was the most easiest thing to do. I did it as well. When I was doing engineering, there was all the buzz around IT. So I ended up doing engineering and information technology. And as a natural progression, I joined an IT firm. I was picked up by Siemens to work in their SAP department. SAP, again, those were the times where ERP was just coming into the fore. Everybody was starting to realize how important the ERP is. Enterprises was planning, and there were a handful of firms who were actually SAP's implementation partners for ERP. And at that very point of time, SAP was also kind of dabbling into the internet space, how they can move ERP from the offices to taking them into the internet space. So there was this technology called mobile infrastructure, which was a platform being built by SAP. And every implementation partner, of which Siemens was one of them, was asked to send a few of their blokes to SAP and work on this product. So I happened to be one of them, and it was during that time where there were I think only feature phones at that time, And the closest that we had to smartphones was PDAs, personal digital assistants. So we were devising softwares and applications that time to link the outside world with the internet to the database of ERP prevalent and residing inside the corporates. So that was a amazing learning experience where we were partly working on projects for customers and partly on developing new technology. Pretty interesting that was. And as you know, so the line there, the red line shows a kind of a disruption that I would call, from engineering to going into finance. But as we all know, in the past 10, 12, 15 years, most engineers end up doing MBA and doing marketing finance. So it's no more as much of a disruption right now. So I did MBA from Symbiosis, specializing into finance. And like any other finance grad, I joined an investment bank. Could have joined a brokerage firm or a normal banking, anything. I was lucky enough to get into JP Morgan. And it was a very amazing stint there as well. I got a chance to work in Mumbai with their Mumbai office, with their New York office. I also got a chance to work on the buy side as well, where I had a short stint with their real estate special opportunities fund. So it was a good experience of, about 3.5 years where I could work in India, New York, buy side, sell side. And it was amazing. You got to work with one of the best minds in the business in different geographies, different kinds of industries, because I was more into the diversified industrial space. So there are investment banking has various sector specific verticals. So diversified industrials had aerospace, defense, railroads, shipping, all sorts of industries. So I got to know about a lot of such industries during my stint there. And somewhere, around the 3.5 year time, I thought that I would want to go and do something of my own. Now, there were a lot of things that, you could start off with. People would have expected me to start off something into finance or IT. That's been my base. But I kind of wanted to do something more on the non-finance, non-IT, because I found those were very cluttered spaces. And to start something in finance, I thought it was a bit difficult and did not even have that much of a drive to start something in finance. And to be very honest, if you wanted to start something out in finance, maybe a boutique IB or something, you needed much, much more experience than what I had under my belt. Much more experience, much more network connections to be able to do something out there. And I had a lot of relatives and friends who had, traditionally been into business and were doing quite well. I used to keep having chats with them. So there was this cousin of mine who used to trade into food ingredients. So when I meet food ingredients, there are quite a few things like, there is glucose and starch, a lot of raw materials in foods which are used by a lot of food companies. I used to chat with him many times. This was a business started by his father, and used to keep discussing many a times. So he was once in Mumbai to meet a few customers and also to attend an exhibition. And I just happened to ask him what was the exhibition. So it was a food ingredients exhibition in Mumbai. So I thought, fine. It was during that time I was thinking of, trying to venture out and doing something. I said, okay, I'll take a couple of days off and I will go with you on the exhibition. I went there and I saw a host of food ingredients on display, and right from the basic raw materials to some specialized ingredients. That's where I stumbled upon this thing called food flavors. I met with a lot of manufacturers, the customers, the dealers in the exhibition, and that got me thinking. So that is when my procedure to start and research more about this particular product started. When I started to read more, talk to people about what are these food flavors and stuff. And then, I after a lot of deliberations and Q&A with myself and a lot of other people, I finally quit JP Morgan and I started on my own. So the first couple of years was spent in trading into food ingredients. where I traded into flavors, into fibers, into cocoa powder, and a bunch of other food ingredients. And later on, I thought that to go further, a step further, I always wanted to get into manufacturing. And lucky enough, again, an opportunity presented itself, and I could again take the plunge into manufacturing. So right now, for the last couple of years, we are manufacturing food flavors. So there, what you see, Aroma Atom is the brand of food flavors that we manufacture. So a lot of things that I have learned and I have gone through in my journey are connected on this basis of what this market and this product is. So I'll just quickly take you through this. So
Saurabh, if I can just intervene here, and I have a question. Okay, so you said while you were looking at IB as an option or career option, and maybe you even thought of starting your own boutique IB firm, but then you realized you may need more years of experience and more professional contacts and connects. And then you had a backup of some cousins doing the food ingredient business.
Yeah.
Was there anything else also that you evaluated during this period of time? Did you also consider maybe spending more years in IB and then coming to the manufacturing business or the food business?
Yeah. So see, typically I'll tell you when a person is working in IB. So IB basically is the sell side where, you raise capital for companies, you make them go public, you do M&As and all sorts of stuff. If you go to New York, there are much more aspects to IB, wherein you prepare on takeover defense and a lot of other things, activist defense. So typically in IB, what the basic parts are, you keep spending years into IB, you keep getting promoted, you keep, taking on bigger roles. You end up being an MD, you are head of a particular vertical. From an India head, you go to an Asia head, the global head. That's how the progression is. Some of the folks, after spending a few years into IB in the sell side, move towards the buy side. They enter venture capital funds or private equity funds. So those are the typical, career progressions people in IB take. So like I said, I had, experience of both the sell side as well as the buy side. So had something not, so I was waiting for some good opportunity to come my way. I had also given a couple of other interviews into the buy side. I had got a couple of offers. During the time I was evaluating this thing. So when I was evaluating this thing, I actually reached a stage. So when I wanted to start trading into these, I actually reached out to a couple of firms. Okay, some MNCs who were present into 10, 20, 30 different countries across the world, some based out of Asia, some based out of Europe, and they had started shop in India. So they were looking to expand to, promote their products. So I actually ended up reaching out to them and making a case for myself that you should trust us, give us an opportunity. With me having no background and with my cousin having kind of a fringe background into food ingredients, but nothing into flavors. So we tried to put a case for ourselves and we got the nod from two of them that, okay, go ahead. So I was kind of in doldrums. Should I take the buy side path and make a career out of it? Or this is an opportunity, it may not come tomorrow and I may not be ready to take it tomorrow. Do I take the plunge today? So I before taking the plunge, I actually prepared a bit myself for it. So about 4 to 6 months was spent in devoting almost all weekends towards meeting prospective customers, towards meeting the chain of distribution, meeting the guys, how it happens, what are the basic nuances, how is the flavor approval process, how do you reach to clients, what are the things that they need into a flavor and whom do they buy from, the price point, everything. So I try to get as much as possible to the as ground level reality as possible into this business. So it was that time when I thought that maybe I'm much more comfortable now in taking this plunge. In fact, as a matter of fact, even by doing it part-time, I could actually crack a couple of big customers as clients. So the companies that I was distributing for were very happy and they said, you should take it. And I was converting into business as well. I thought, yeah, I understand it. I can make something out of it. Let me take the plunge. So after almost 4 to 6 months of due, due diligence and deliberations, I actually went for it. So if I hadn't got this opportunity, maybe I would have still been an IB today, maybe buy side, sell side, I'm not sure. But yeah, this is how things evolve.
Okay, so it was a very calculated move backed with a lot of research and ground reality check that you really spent on. So a 6 months of trying to meet across the value chain and then deciding that, okay, this is probably the right time and you know what is required in this. So an important aspect here for people trying to get started on their own, the research on ground, not just secondary research over the net, is a very critical aspect here. So please keep that in mind. Right? Yes, sir. You can go ahead with it.
Yeah. So this is where actually I started in understanding the landscape of this business. There are a host of companies, MNCs who've been in India for almost 30 years. There are some Indian large companies. One of them, if you see the brand name Keva, they are listed. SH Kelkar Group is listed, is the biggest homegrown flavor house. And there are a lot of medium and small flavor companies also. There are products. So this particular thing, can you see the cursor, Umar?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the closest that a layman knows about flavors and essences. We would have seen such bottles in our houses where our moms or anybody makes cakes or bakes or something. And that was my understanding about this industry till I actually got down to knowing more about it. But actually, if you go to see, if you walk into a supermarket, pick up any product from the shelf, be it a biscuit, be it a drink, be it a cake, be it a chip, wafer chip, anything. You just roll over to the ingredients. You will see one ingredient has added flavors. So, and that was one of the exercises I did, when I was trying to get into it. I walked into a couple of supermarkets, actually going through the shelves and seeing what products are there and seeing, this also has flavor, this also has flavor. So it was kind of a learning for me. So right from your candy to your beverages, to your medicines, to your health supplements, everything has flavors. Okay, and you have manufacturers of all kinds, the big companies like the ITCs, the Britannias, the Parleys, the Daburs, to even small shops and small MSME industries. Everybody makes these products. Everybody needs the flavors. Okay, and there is a huge network of industrial sales apart from these tiny bottles that we see. That is just a very small segment or portion of this business. That intrigued me further, that it's a mass market. You have customers of all sizes. You have companies of all sizes. Okay, and every company has its different distribution chain. They have direct sales, they have a distributor network, they have a retail network. In fact, this middleman chain is pretty fat than what it looks on the screen. There are various levels of distribution that happen because there's as much of an organized market as much there's an unorganized market for this product. So this is the basic landscape, just in a nutshell of this business. So I had taken quite a few tours down Princess Street, where there is something called a Dawa Bazaar, where you have all these distributors who are third generation and fourth generation, who are dealing into flavors and a couple of other ingredients as well. Just to know what is the competition that I'm up against and how are the business practices and how does the trade work. And a lot of those tours gave me an inkling that this is a legacy business and a lot of it is still working in a disorganized fashion. And there is scope to put in some professionalism into it, iron out some creases, make small improvements, and still grab market share. So, and just to test myself, like I said, I went to 4 to 6 months, so a lot of cold calling, visiting customers on weekends, and a lot of stuff. And then I took the plunge and we started trading into flavors. So we started with these two companies. One of them was in India, was a European company, was in India for about a year and a half or two, and their annual sales was about 90 lakh rupees. Uh, Hardly any distribution channel, but the products were good. So we evaluated their products and we thought the products are good at good pricing points, and we started selling them. So about 2.5 years down the line, the company started clocking, and we were the only distributors then, started clocking revenues of about 20 crores. And there was another company which is Malaysia based and which had about 20 odd distributors, and we took up their distribution as well. And again, in a span of 2-3 years, we were amongst the top 3 distributors for those companies. Things were going pretty well, and the same things, we took advantage of the disorganization in the market, a lot of legacy systems, and we were trying to make most out of it. 3.5 years down the line, the same disorganization got the better of us. And we had to lose a huge chunk of our business where the company whom we were representing kind of, took away a large chunk of our business on their own. And right now, when we were fighting the competitors, we were also fighting the very suppliers that we were catering to. So that was a rude shock for us. We lost almost 60 to 70% of the business that we were doing, along with being slapped with a almost 3.5 crore defamation suit as well. So that was kind of a shock. But if I look back and see, I think that was the best thing that happened to us. That pushed us to go into backward integration and take the leap into manufacturing the same products. So I used to wonder that, there are distributors who are third generation, fourth generation into this business. And everybody in any corner of India knows these distributors by name because they've been in this business for long, but they never did manufacturing. They had all the customers, all the products, but they never got into manufacturing. And we used to think that if they are not doing it, are we fools to do it? We had this hiccup in our hearts, but we were left with no choice. And frankly speaking, during those 3.5 years, when we were trading into these products, we used to actually think that with the advent of internet and communication technology, it is very easy for anybody to break this network and actually reach out directly to the manufacturer. You don't maybe as much need this chain of middlemen so much today as you might have needed it maybe 10 years, 15 years down the line. So we used to always think about it. And this crude reality actually hit us. So we again got together and we started putting up the bricks to enter into manufacturing of the same products. Now, to get into manufacturing of a product, we were sure of one thing. We know how this product works. What is the demand side? What are the customers? What is it that the customers look into the products? What should be the pricing points? All we did not know is how to manufacture them. So see, flavors are actually technical formulations. You need a technical flavorist who's experienced, who knows it, and who can make those flavors for you. Most companies have flavorists on their payrolls. Okay, they will pay them a good salary, some retainerships and stuff. But that is the crux of the product. If somebody knows your formula to make a particular flavor, he can make it and sell it to the same customer at a cheaper price. It will need a bit of convincing and stuff, but it's possible. That's the key secret ingredient of your business. So we were always on a lookout to find somebody who could do this for us. And we were very clear. Once we find the right person with the right experience, with the right intentions, we will not have him on the payroll, but we will have him as a partner. So if I actually look across the landscape of flavor companies, I actually don't see any company in which there is a flavorist who is a partner. Be it the biggest firms or homegrown Indian firms, the flavorist is not the partner. So we got him to have a share in the equity of the company to bind him towards the longer term goals. Because when you're entering into manufacturing, you're not looking at a short term goal. You're looking for the long haul. We asked him to come on board. We parted with our potential future profits and tied his intentions and goals to the fate of the company. That's worked beautifully for us. We could develop in a span of say 2.5 years, amazing products. We could tap the same clients which we lost, offering them same or better products with better pricing points and better customer service. And we could fly off into 2.5 years with the same business that, we kind of lost 3.5 years ago. So
sort of a couple of questions at this point.
Yeah.
That was very interesting for somebody whose business is really picking up, and then all of a sudden you have a rude shock where 70% of your business is wiped off in one stroke. So, two questions. One, how much was a transition time for you from losing out on those businesses and getting your manufacturing up and started? And two is, what were the thought processes and two, in terms of how did you then differentiate yourself from your existing partner, if I were to say, who was already with you?
Yeah. So frankly, it took us a bit of time to get over it, because it is certainly a bolt from the blue when your more than half of your business is taken away, and the trust that you were thriving your business on, when you're basing your business on, is suddenly out of the window. So it took us roughly a year to put together the manufacturing thing. So while we were battling it out with this supplier who we were fighting the suit as well, we started looking out that there is no. So see, everybody now, since we were clocking such kind of revenues, a lot of other companies knew us. So we were approached by a lot of other rival companies, Indian as well as foreign, that what they have done to you, we would not do to you, and you can start promoting our brand, and we can switch over the customers and all sorts of things. But at that point, we were very clear: we are not going to make the same mistake again. Okay, well, it's going to be the same story. We will build our own brand. Let's see if we can do it. We actually knew quite a few people in various companies, from the sales guys to the people in the office to even the flavorists. We used to frequent these fairs as well. And what we used to do, a lot of what distinguished us as traders, as distributors, was we used to not just be in our office or in our shops. We used to spend considerable amount of time inside the factories of these manufacturers, okay, interacting with the flavorists, understanding how flavors are made, giving our inputs as to create new flavors, tweak the flavors, depending on the customer inputs we used to get. How used to be the customer inputs is, we used to, again, not just meet the customers in their offices. We used to actually go down to their factories, carry our flavors, stand on their factory floors and take trials. In all the heated environments, we used to take trials of confectionaries, of biscuits. Ourselves used to take trials. We used to catch hold of an application guy, and along with him, we used to do this. So we knew people in the entire chain. So we did not remain superficial, which a lot of other distributors were. They might have never interacted with a flavorist, never interacted with a job work guy on a factory floor. So our learning was immense of the product, how the product behaves in the application, as well as how the product is created. So we knew quite a few flavorists,
and we used to talk to them. And that's when we identified these one or two guys who would be open to such a avenue, whom we could trust over years of talking to them. And that's when we tapped this particular person, uh, very knowledgeable, good experience. And we told him, this is what we have in mind. Do you want to come over? We had discussions, and and we also thought, what is it that is incentivizing him to come over and leave his well-paying job and come over in a startup? Is the opportunity to be a part owner into a company where no flavorist is being given this position. So we thought that's a fair deal. It took us a year to again start formulating all flavors from scratch, putting together a factory, recruiting people, everything. So it was a better part of more than a year, I think, that took us to, come up with the manufacturing unit. This was again a great learning, from trading to manufacturing. So from IB to catering was a different ball game. Used to sit in air-conditioned offices, talk about big numbers and big deals.
It will be more organized market as well.
Yeah, very organized market. And this was completely disorganized. Absolutely. Anybody is doing whatever they want to. There are no preset rules, no ground rules, nothing. You can do whatever you want to. No more sitting in your office. We used to spend 20 days out of Mumbai, not just home, meeting customers in different cities and whatnot. But that all added to the value, the experience that we gained in factories, in customers, in production units of flavors with flavorists, is what we thought nobody can take away from us. Okay, but none of the distributors did. And when we formulated our first batch of 30 flavors, we actually went to those same distributors who were in the business for 30 years and 50 years. And they were absolutely flabbergasted that these are the guys, who entered this particular trade just 4 or 5 years back. And now they are sitting in front of us as manufacturers and pitching their products to us. And now that we're comparing their products to some of the best in the business, they're actually coming out pretty good with very good pricing points. So another thing that we pitch to people is, you see all these multinationals who have amazing air-conditioned offices and high-paid staff, for the sales and whatnot. We can give you the same flavors with absolute reduced pricing, because here I am the guy who's doing the purchase, who's doing the sales, who's doing the branding, who's doing the marketing, who's sitting in front of you, who will be attending to your customer calls, and who will be taking trials of my flavors in your production floor. So we are cutting out all that flab, and that reduction in the cost is what we are passing on to you. You don't need to buy it from a distributor, you need to buy it directly from us. So we were able to give, because of the knowledge we had about how these products work into the practical environment, we could make the right products at the right pricing point and sell it to the customers. Of course, we were against some very well-established names. It was a hard sell. It took us a lot of effort, but we were able to finally accomplish it. So
that's quite a journey. That's quite a journey of ups and downs and immense learning, I would say. And maybe even, thinking on your feet, literally, when you were running around and trying to meet people and get what exactly is happening in the market and the value chain again. So that those grinds definitely came in handy in the later years, if not necessarily at the start as well. So at this point in time, I have a quick poll for our participants here. So we saw somebody, our speaker here is from an IT background, who did an MBA in finance, worked as an investment banker, but has started a food flavor business. And from trading has moved into manufacturing now. How many of you are looking at starting a business which is in your area or domain of education or qualification or skill sets that you may have. Come on, guys, you have 30 seconds. Please pick up your answers. So, all right. So I guess your talk is being quite an inspiration here. As numbers are coming in, I see most of them wanting to do something which is different than their core education. Okay. All right. I'll end the polling here, and so I'll just publish the results. We have what 51% saying they want to do something which is completely different, while good 26% say that they want to do something which may be related to their education. So, okay, fair enough. So at this point in time, we have a question from Mohammed Jabir. Jabir, can you just make it very quick?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you, sir? So my question is very simple, sir. Basically, you are in IT, then you went from MBA, then you start your business, right? The same thing is going to me. I did engineering and computer, and I did MBA from the same college, SV, and now I'm doing job in ICICI Bank. But sir, my passion, my goal is I want to start my own business. Basically, we are in manufacturing sector, for apparel manufacturing. So I want to make it in organized way and I want to make it a brand. So I don't know where I want to start basically.
Yeah, see, trust me, from my experience, what I have seen is a lot of legacy businesses. You can do small changes, small improvements, which can go a long way.
Right.
A lot of it, and say textiles and food, these are all legacy businesses. If we take out the IT and the finance, the financial services, those are the new businesses and startups that are. But so how I started as, to find out what are the small improvements, you actually have to get down to the ground level and find out how does the current trade work.
Right, sir.
So if you're into textile, there are yarns there are cotton yarns which are spun, and then there is cloth that is made, and then there is more value add. The fabric is made, and the garment is made. So in whatever segment you are, in whatever part of the food chain that you are, I would suggest to actually venture out on the ground level and find out every stage. Right. What is happening, how it is happening, and then, that is when you can come about what are the potential problems that could be ironed out. It may be the smallest of changes, but it will have a huge impact.
Right,
so spend some time into that thing. If it's a family business, you know whom to go to, and you have all the connections. People will be more than willing to talk to you and understand and explain their part of the job, everything. Start from there, and I'm sure, you will see there are some small improvements that you can make,
right,
which can go a long way.
Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Record of our participants here, Saurabh also happens to have a family business which is into textiles, right? But so he's not only left IB, he's also left a very tempting textiles business and then got into manufacturing of food flavors. All right. So Saurabh, moving on, and so my next set of questions here comes in from
just if you would allow me, sorry. This poll, about starting something which is not core to your education background or your work experience, well, it has been the same for me. But what I always look back and see is it has helped me a great deal of the work experience that I've had. Just to give an example, in IB, you are creating huge valuation models, and you're valuing companies in all possible ways, models which are running into Excel sheets with thousands of rows and multiple sheets, the complex models, that you can see. That Excel skills, that I actually learned during my stint at JP Morgan actually helped me a great deal. When we went from trading to manufacturing, so when you're trading, you're basically selling like what, 30, 40 products to most of your customers. and you can know how to manage the inventory of those 30, 40 products. When I got into manufacturing, I was looking at sourcing about 800 to 1,000 raw materials, okay, to make my set of 100 products. And every raw material goes into various flavors in various dosages, okay. So I thought that and when I used to trade, I used to work with a lot of manufacturers who used to tell me, oh, we are suddenly short of raw material of this particular flavor. You have to give us 20 days lead time or 30 days lead time. And it's always wonder, why is it so difficult for them to manage raw materials? So when I started sourcing raw materials, I came to know, oh, so you have to source about 1,000 raw materials. And some of them which you might need almost 5 tons a month, to some of them that you might need not more than 10 grams a month, okay? And everybody comes with their own MOQ sizes, and you have to source it from various suppliers, some importers, some manufacturers, whatnot. So I actually set up a whole Excel, okay, wherein I had all the filters, kind of built functionality of getting the formulas into it. And every time, when a raw material used to come at a critical point, it used to throw up an alert to me, and then I used to place an order. So I used all those Excel skills to actually manage that, my inventory of raw materials, of packaging material, everything. So what is actually been done by 2 or 3 people in every organization that I have seen, 2 or 3 people are only devoted to purchasing and raw material management. And there is a stores guy separate. So I actually had it all into one Excel sheet. So that saved me on cost. That kept me in control. And when you are starting out into manufacturing, I was very clear, I have to run on a very tight budget. Okay, because I want to survive this manufacturing stint. If I buy too much, which I don't need, I block my capital, it's not going to help me in the longer run. So I saved on maybe salaries, saved on capital investment. So that experience helped me, So it's not that what you experience in your corporate life, you will not be able to apply it. The professionalism that I talk about, that I could bring about to some extent, was thanks to what I learned in Siemens and in JP Morgan. So, which a lot of legacy businesses don't know, and they're running in the old format. So there's no harm in venturing into something new. If you believe in it, if you've done your due diligence, there is absolutely great if you start doing what you have been learning and what you have done a job in. You can start out there as well. There are no rules, but keep that in mind. Whatever you do, it's going to help you somewhere or the other. You just have to keep that in mind.
So, most of you here learned PERT and CPM as part of your operations management in SEM 1, which is exactly what he was talking about, the critical path and the levels dipping for the key raw materials and ingredients, and when do I go and order my next quantity and what rate and how much do I need to buy. So whatever you're learning is actually getting implemented here. So don't look at them in silos. They are part of a larger picture here. Right, Saurabh? So you mentioned that you have 800 to 1,000 commodities or ingredients that go in, and in the recent past, especially since this pandemic, we have seen, and we have also discussed a couple of times, that commodity prices have shot off the roof. So in such cases, then how do you go about managing your inventory? So pricing is one point, and as you also mentioned, supply is getting constrained because somebody is coming from outside the country, something is coming from within certain parts of the country. So then how do you try and manage those inventory levels?
Yeah, so that's actually very interesting. And the pandemic has thrown a lot of challenges in the past year and a half. To give you an example, so there is this one ingredient called propylene glycol, which forms the bulk of the flavor that we make. It's the carrier. So just like, you have a chocolate, wherein the candy is made of sugar and glucose. Okay, that's like 95-98% of the mass. So this particular commodity is about 90% or 80 to 90% of the flavor that we make. So in the pandemic, the price of that commodity shot from 100 rupees to 450 rupees. Okay, so it was crazy, and so did a lot of other raw materials. So we were at this juncture, what to do? We had heard a lot of other competitors stopping sales of certain flavors, increasing prices. What we thought is, although it will be a difficult time for us, we actually went back to the formulation part. We searched pretty hard. We actually found some replacements. Okay. And see, flavor is a very critical part. Okay. That can make your product or break your product. Just to let you know, what differentiates an orange candy from a mango candy is only the flavor, nothing else. Okay. So while we did replacements of this product for a lot of our flavors, we also worked in doing applications of those flavors. So we have a small lab. Before sending it out to the customers, we tried and tested it into the products. So when the pandemic struck, of course, the business was hit. So we took it as a challenge, knowing that this is going to happen for a lot of other raw materials now. So we started working on replacements, tweaks in the formulas for a lot of other raw materials. And when each of them started going up, we had replacements for them. Not to mention that, yes, we had to take a hit on our margins. Okay. A lot of the competitors actually increased pricing. We thought this to be an opportunity to actually keep the pricing same, reduce our margins as much as possible. In fact, a lot of our products, we even went ahead and sold at no profit, no loss. Because see, that's the nature of a business. Once you get into a product, into a company, you stay there for long. And these raw material prices are temporary. Okay, it might be 6 months, a year, or maybe more. If we can survive this part out, then we will gradually start making money when the raw material prices are out. And the customers will also value us, that these are the guys who supported us, and when the other regular suppliers did not. So we took it as an opportunity. We trimmed down our margins to as much as we could. Okay, barring a few products, we did not increase the pricing. And we were like kind of a bit very confident that those are the products where we would be able to pass off the extra price. So we kind of juggled, and if we had the leeway of some excess investment capacity, we bought out some raw materials upfront, which we knew will also increase in the coming months. So it was a mix of both replacements, going back to the formulation board, trimming down our margins, buying some raw materials upfront. It was a very, kind of a juggling thing, which we did for a lot of stuff.
So has pandemic also changed the consumer behavior, consumption patterns in terms of what flavors are working more, what are probably not working more?
So it was the case. If you know the first pandemic, people were doing a lot of panic buying in terms of food items as well. Long lines outside stores and all kinds of kirana stores and everything. Restaurants were shut, even the take homes were not allowed. So if you see this in this slide, there is the leftmost product, the small 20, 30 ml, we call it the culinary packing. And when I started off in the flavor business, I used to absolutely look down upon this segment of this business, that it's too small and it's too much laborious and it's no point doing it. But when the pandemic struck, everything was closed. People actually took a lot to making things inside the homes. Okay. And suddenly this became a very big segment. We were approached by our distributors that we are seeing a shooting demand for this product. Why don't you do it? So I told them, our stance, this is not the segment we want to get into. It's too much labor intensive. He said, but I'm telling you, it's a big business now. So what happens is when you do this product, you have to create a whole new packaging, right from the bottles to the cartons and everything. And people want in that same set that they have been getting over the years, the same packaging size and everything. So we actually got together and thought that, do we want to do this? So we spoke to the distributors, they pushed us to do it. And we thought, okay, we'll do it, but we'll kind of do it in our own way. So actually, this is a business, this is a segment which is not very high on margins. Okay. And the packagings are not attractive. If you see these bottles, they are not attractive at all. They are being displayed on the shelves of retail stores and stuff. So we thought, okay, we will make use of the existing inventory. So we had sample bottles of 30 grams. Okay. But the trade more demanded 20 grams. So we said, we told our distributors that, okay, you might be having orders, but we will do it our way if you are okay with it. We said, they asked us how. We told them we will have not the regular 20 grams, but the 30 grams. So that would save us a lot on the additional investment on the inventory, making of the labels. Okay. And a lot of the work would be cut out. And we would come up with new flavors. We would not just come up with the regular vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, pineapple, but we would come up with something like a Ferrero Rocher, After Eight, then Kit Kat, and all kinds of, because we saw people make all these kinds of cakes, nowadays, Lotus Biscoff and whatnot. So we got together on the creation board, we created these flavors and we sold these flavors in a higher packing at a higher price point. So we might have still not got 75% of this business, but the 25% of this segment was what, we got hold of. And if you see the last year, if we hadn't started this product, we might have lost out, because then this product contributed about 20% of our annual sales in the last year. So people's consumption patterns change. People, rather than having out, decided making things indoors. They wanted to experiment. They were okay with buying a higher packing size. They wanted to try out new flavors. They wanted to pay a bit extra for the new flavors. It worked well for them. It worked well for us. It went well for the distributors as well. They got to earn a bit higher margin as well. So yes, pandemic throws different opportunities. So that's how it was for us.
Okay, that's very interesting and very mouth-watering indeed. Close to the lunchtime with flavors like Ferrero Rochers and After Eight. I'm sure if you have an opening for somebody to taste your flavors, I volunteer myself free of cost. So, anyways, moving on with your question on, you mentioned that it was very important for you to get the flavor specialist as a partner, because ultimately that was the one who's going to decide your business, and that's not your core competency.
Correct.
So how do you go about managing workforce in an organization? What are your philosophies on it, if you can elaborate? How do you go about, because you might have also seen some ups and downs in labor issues during the pandemic, and also when you move from trading to manufacturing business. So how do you go about managing and maintaining your workforce?
Yeah, this was actually a challenging part for me, because when you are managing a factory, you have employees of all kinds, people who might just be 10th pass or 12th pass, to people who are even MTechs from UDCT. You have customers of different kinds. As opposed to when I was working in JP Morgan and Siemens, you have a certain kind of people, people who have done MBA and very intelligent minds and know what to do and high level talks and all such stuff. This was actually thing that I had to learn and adapt, how to, understand what various people with various backgrounds, various education, with various family difficulties, what is it that how is it that they think about things, or go about things. It took me a time, to be honest, to understand, because the kind of professional attitude that I used to work in JP Morgan and Siemens, that was missing in a lot of the guys who were actually working on the job floor. And mind you, the production floor is a pretty difficult area to be in. You are in a closed environment. You don't have any fans. Forget the air condition. Okay, it's a closed environment because you're producing food. Okay, there can be no scope of contamination, and you spend a couple of hours taking a single batch. Then you go to the room, sit for 10 minutes, take some air, and come back. It's a difficult job to do. How I started is, the first flavors that we made, I blended them myself. We did not hire anybody. When we were doing the R&D stage, I blended them myself in that particular environment. So for about 2 months, I think, okay, before we finalized the flavors, then we started hiring some people. So I was very well aware it's a tough situation to be in for anybody, however educated or uneducated he might be. So you have to understand it's tough, and they might not behave in the most rational manner when they are out there. And you can no longer talk as if you have the chip on your shoulder of a JP Morgan or a Siemens. That's not the case. Get down to the basics, be humble. Okay. That's the way to, interact with people and get your job done. So I had to learn all those things, unlearn a lot of things, and go about it. The flavors that we had helped us a great deal, to let us know what it entails and how these guys think. And training them is a huge challenge as well, because it's a very critical aspect. The smallest of error can make you reject the whole batch. Training them, understanding them, giving them comfortable space, not overburdening them. In IB, you are working around the clock. You start at 9, you end up 2, 3, 4 in the morning, go back home, come back again. So you can be ruthless. You are paid for it. And you can just sit down and keep punching your desktop and all the way around. But that's not the case here. So we had to learn this. When the pandemic struck, the transportation was closed. We couldn't get them to travel. We had to make arrangements for them to stay at our premises, arrange for their fooding and all that they need, which has been going on even now. So even today, a huge chunk of our labor stays at the factory premises. Their food and everything is on the house. We are taking care of them so that they can continue to do about that job. So yes, you have to understand the backgrounds of people, from where they come from, and adapt yourself. It's difficult, but when you start on your own, you have to do everything. You don't have an HR department to recruit, to train. You don't have an admin department to take care of all the other admin issues. You don't have a finance department, a marketing department, a sales department. You are doing everything. And I would suggest that it's important to do it, because it's important for you to learn every aspect of this before you scale up. That's the important learning that you should have.
Okay, so something that you yourself did for a couple of months, being in that environment, understanding what really needs to be done, as well as what an employee or a labor would be going through when they would be doing something like this, right? Okay, so that was a very important aspect that you spoke of. Now, since you spoke of trying to manage everything, right from finances to marketing to HR, what happens to work-life balance? Is there any?
Well, it's a mixed bag, to be honest. It's a mixed bag. So, see, again, once again, coming from IB, we were working donkey hours. So that was ingrained to work long hours and to work continuously. What was good in IB is you could go off on a vacation whenever you wanted, once a quarter or once in 4 months, and nobody used to have a problem. So you used to have your off times. In your business, you are running your business 24/7. There is nobody in your place who's doing it for you. At least in the starting years, that's how it works. Weekends also, you are continuously working, be it a Saturday or a Sunday, from morning till night, because you want to make it happen. And it's pretty enjoyable, to be honest, because everything that you put together, every incremental step, you see a result out of it. You see how it adds up to the bigger puzzle. Okay, it may be a small admin job or something related to the factory or something to source, or to talk to a customer. Everything is adding up to a bigger puzzle. It may not be a core competence, but you are doing it and you're trying continuously to streamline the process, to remove the bottlenecks. So that involves a lot of input from your end, So, and until you do it yourself, you don't have a control about everything. Right. So work-life balance, of course, if you say it takes a toll, you can say it takes a toll, but if you're enjoying it, it actually is not taking a toll. I remember ending up working almost the same hours post IB, and I'm happy I could do it rather than slacking out. So this is again, one thing I used to feel what is a problem with legacy businesses. People, with generations down this legacy business, they tend to take it a bit easy. They want to go about the same chain and the same procedure. They don't think about doing something new and stuff. So that's what, person from a professional background probably gets to the table and kinds of hits them. What is important for you to remember is to never get complacent. This very attitude of yours, which kind of enabled you to take a pie out of the market. If you start getting complacent with your initial success, and there will be somebody else waiting in the wings to do the same to you. So I would always suggest, so there are people, my friends in IB used to tell me that, oh, now so you are doing your own business, so you can take it easy and you can work whenever you want. You can take an off whenever you want. You don't need to put in the long hours. Who's there to question you? So these are normal, kind of conversations that happen, but that's not the case. And I hope it's not the case with any of you guys who start off. To continue giving the same effort or even more, because that's what you are building. You're building your own baby. So don't think about work-life balance. Just go about it.
So one last question from my side before I throw it open to the audience. You've expanded your business also internationally. So from far east of Asia to the west of Asia. So can you elaborate how different was it as an experience? Any challenges that you faced which were very unique to those particular markets and were not seen from an Indian context?
Well, see, most countries have different barriers. Now, when you're talking about food, the palate of the people changes from country to country. Not so much if you're talking about, say, the Indian subcontinent, say India, Bangladesh, Nepal, fairly similar. So when we wanted to go out, we actually thought of plucking the low-hanging fruits. The taste preferences of the countries in the subcontinent is more or less the same. Okay, you can pitch the same flavors to them and they will lap it up. The challenges come in the part of the import structures. Some countries have import duties as much as 100%. Some don't. They have certain regulations that you have to pass it off through a distributor channel, or some countries say you have to sell directly. So there are various things. And when we started off, we thought very easy to go it very simple. Let's think what is manageable to us today, pluck the low-hanging fruits, same palette. We know the geography. If we know the language, even better. So my cousin is from Kolkata. He knows Bengali very well. So the first regions he wanted to tap was Bangladesh. Bangladesh has a huge food consumption, an import-dependent country. He knew Bengali very well. So we started traveling to Bangladesh, meeting customers, and we could connect. So then Nepal is also fairly similar, similar cultures and similar taste palettes and everything. When you start going away from it, the challenges get more stiff. If you go to Africa, there are different challenges. The price points are different. The needs are different. So again, when we started off doing other regions, we started off with actually tapping people who export to those countries. We started having license with them and not going out on our own. So it is a step-by-step procedure. You cannot do everything all together. Plus you have the India business to take care of. So see, that is what is interesting when you do your own business, that there is no limit to it. It is only you who can put a limit to yourself. I was trading just in India. I could sell to all of India and to countries outside India. There are so many avenues for you to expand and actually, do a lot of other things that you can and you want to do only if you have the will. So that's another thing that the business gives you, all the opportunities that you want to do.
Right. Thanks. That was very interesting and insightful. Now the floor is open to the audience. If there are any questions, please raise your hand first so that we can pick up the questions, and keep your questions very focused and brief. Yes, Anjali.
Hi. So like Saurabh is a guest speaker, I'm a guest listener on this session. So thank you, Umar, for letting me in. Saurabh, I have a question for you.
Yep.
May I?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So when things really go down, what is that one motivation that you have that kind of pulls you back in?
Well, see, like I told, when we lost more than half our business was one point, which was probably the lowest point in my journey of my business so far. Well, what we were very confident is, the kind of learning and the effort we had put in up till that day was something that nobody can take away from us. The understanding we had of the business, the network that we had made, how good a business partner we were to our customers, even to competitors. We were sure that this learning, this understanding, nobody can take it away from us, whatever it may be. And the difficult grind that, I had earlier on in my career, because, when we were making applications for mobile infrastructure, the mobile part in SAP, we were doing things which were never done. We had to keep on trying and failing and trying and failing. In IB, you are given maybe unpractical deadlines many a times. So we just relied on all those things, our knowledge, our understanding of the business, and the faith that we could again start from scratch and put together something and make something out of it. So, when I showed the first slide, I've actually been through these progressions and disruptions and starting from scratch all over again. I've done it a couple of times. So it was a shocker, but we were sure that it would take a bit of time, but we can come back on. You just rely on what you've learned, be honest enough to put in the same effort, maybe more, to get back together, and you can pull it off. I don't think it's difficult today. See, we are in a time, I believe, that there are a lot of opportunities. People are ready to accept new things, to experiment with new things. Funding is not so much of a constraint as it used to be maybe 30 years when my parents started out or grandparents started out. Of course, it's a challenge, but not such a big challenge that it was decades ago. If you have a decent idea, you're ready to work hard for it, there will be people to back you with funds. So just believe in yourself, and if you've done the process right, you can come back again. I don't see any reason to, be too down about it.
Thank you. That was very inspiring. I think I needed it the most. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions, please? Abhay? Anybody else here has questions?
Yeah, I just have a small question. Can I?
Yes, please, Abhay.
Yeah, so hi Saurabh, I'm again a guest over here. So I was listening to the challenges you faced during the lockdown. So I was just curious about what are the challenges that you faced for as a labor challenges. So did you face with the typical labor migration challenge, and how did you manage those?
Yeah, labor was a big issue for everybody. Some of the labor. So when the lockdown happened last year, during the end of March, April was a complete shutdown. April was an absolute shutdown. Even we being in food business, we had to actually get the permissions to start our factory again, which we kind of were able to procure only by the first week of May. So we continued to pay salaries to our labor even for the month of March and April. But labor being labor, they had their own insecurities. A lot of them actually ran back to their hometowns. Some of them were there in Mumbai. So when we started again in May first week, there was no way for them to travel. So we were working at maybe 50%, or even I think in May we were working at 30% of the labor. We asked them to get all their stuff and set up camp in the factory. We arranged for their fooding, knowing very well that this is an additional expense and there is no surety about the business today. Because the factories that we were supplying to, they also were shut. So if our consumers are not working, if the candy factories, the biscuit factories, they are not operating, they will not have the need for the flavor. And plus the payments were, of course, were not coming in. But we knew we had to start off somewhere. So all what we could do is continue to pay their salaries, irrespective of the business that we had. Okay, dip into the savings that we might have had till the business was running, and make all the arrangements for them to stay there. Even when things opened up in the latter half of last year and the beginning of this year, we did not ask them to go back. We asked them to continue staying at the factory. We continue to bear the expenses of their fooding, and you have the electricity and everything, because we knew this is the hardest aspect. If we don't have the labor, we may have the orders, but we will not be able to execute them. So we tried and took the best care that we could for them, and they also cooperated with us. It's not easy to leave their homes and sit and stay at the factory. We told them, you want to go back home on the weekends, please do so. So by all means, we used to arrange the cabs for them. They used to go back and come back. So it was a drain on us, but we knew if we don't do this, it's going to be very difficult to come back up, because these are trained labor. To train another labor, it would take me a couple of months, and I don't have that time. And partly I had to also get down onto the production floor for the first 2 months of May and June and do the production along with them. And that's where the initial learning also helped. So it has, and when they saw that this guy who is supposedly, the owner of the factory is also working with us, he is also traveling daily. A lot of my relatives actually told me that, let the workers do the job, you don't need to travel. But then I also thought that, when they are, for the livelihood, they are putting themselves at risk and they are working, I cannot be left behind. So I actually practically traveled every day to my factory and worked alongside them. Maybe they must have seen that, okay, if he can do it, we should also do it. So that helped us pull it off, maybe.
Okay. A perfect example of leading by example, or leading from the front, right? Yes, any other queries for Saurabh at this point in time? Anybody? Yes, Akshay. Can you just keep it quick? This would be the last query. Yeah.
Yes. Hello, sir. Good afternoon. I have two questions. So is it easy to acquire the required licenses from FDA and FSI? And secondly, since several processes of extracting essential oils from natural ingredients are similar as compared to perfume industry and flavor industry, have you ever considered starting your own perfumery as well?
Yeah, so thanks for both the questions. Yeah, see, FDA is a bit more difficult. So when you're into food, the most important licensing for you is the FSI, the Food Safety Standards Authority of India. FDA is more tailor-made for the pharma business. So when we started out, we didn't want to target the pharma business as much. Okay. So we procured the FSI license. FSI license is not difficult to procure. And you have a lot of consultants out there who will do the job for you. You pay them a consultancy fee and they will do everything for you. Right from letting you know the practices that need to be followed, documentation required. You pay the fee and they will get the license for you. FDA, I'm not sure, we are still have not got the FDA license. The pharma business also that we are catering to is that segment where we don't need the FDA license. To be honest with you, FDA is a whole big thing to do altogether. And to have a perfectly FDA approved manufacturing facility, I have to do a whole lot of changes at my present facility, which is something that we are not wanting to do at the present moment. And in our business, very few flavor companies are doing it as of now, because a lot of the business in pharma, you don't need that license. And places where you need them also, you already have such a big ocean to tap into, it's okay not to go after it. So we haven't got into. This is a good point you raised. When we started out into trading and manufacturing, this licensing and approvals, it is a headache, okay, which I had never done in all my working life, because there were departments to do it. Initially, I thought I will do it myself, but then I soon realized it's too much of an effort on your part and time that you will put into this, where you can pay somebody a fee and he can do it for you. Because it's work with the government, it has its own timelines and own challenges. If you are starting off, I would always encourage, find out a consultant, ask him to do it for you, and focus your time and effort on something more fruitful. And the next question about the perfumery part, see, you're right, the raw materials, quite of them are same that are used in flavors and perfumes. The major difference in both is perfumes are non-edible. Flavors are edible. Okay. If you cannot produce both into the same unit, you have to have separate unit. Perfumery unit does not need a FSI license. A flavor unit does. And in a flavor unit, you cannot make anything which is perfumery. So all those companies which are doing both are having separate units. Okay. So either you have separate units for both or not. And yes, there are overlaps of raw materials, but there are a huge set of different raw materials also. Because if you don't need something edible, you will get raw materials which are not edible. You can't store the same raw materials and use the same manufacturing apparatus for edible and non-edible products. So we never thought about perfumery. What we are now also definitely thinking of is from trading to manufacturing, from manufacturing to we are now thinking about taking another step backwards is there are a lot of raw materials which we ourselves consume in bulk. Okay. What we are thinking of, going a step backwards and tying up with some manufacturers or importing some of those raw materials in bulk, which we can consume ourselves and we can also give it to other people. So that is the step that we are thinking of. A lot of the MNC flavor companies that you have on the screen, they have certain raw material manufacturing units as well, or apart from the flavor manufacturing units. So that is the backward integration that they have taken and which we as other flavor companies buy it from them. So you can open a perfumery unit, establish a new unit and do it. Or maybe you can go backward integration here and open a new avenue here as well. So that is the path we are taking as of now.
Thank you so much.
Right. I guess we'll call it the day here in terms of the questions. I'm sorry if there is anybody else who has a question and probably will not be able to take in, because we've already short the time by a considerable chunk. So, Saurabh, thank you so much. This was one of the most fantastic sessions that we have had, most integrating session that we had. And I'm sure the participants here, and I can take the liberty of speaking on their behalf, this past 80, 90 minutes have been a true learning experience on a host of factors, right from your grit and determination to getting the learnings from a structured business environment into an unstructured one, taking the hits, rising again. Honestly, it's been an inspirational journey. I wish we had more time, but we definitely look forward to another opportunity to engage with you. Maybe this time when the institution reopens and we can have a better interaction in person. Once again, thank you so much. I guess the least the badge deserves here is a big round of applause for Saurabh. Saurabh, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you taking out time. Really appreciate you running us through your journey, and those nuggets, I guess, will remain with us for a very, very long period of time.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope I did not put a lot of you guys to sleep. I used to do many of those guest lectures in my B school days. I hope it was of some use. And I would, as a parting thought, I would just encourage everybody to not get too tied up about the timing of starting your entrepreneurial journey. Just be thorough. You can do it immediately after B school, 2 years after B school, 10 years after B school, 20 years out of B school. There are no fixed rules. There are no formulas. Just be thorough about what you want to do. Spend some time. If you get a chance, experience it on the sidelines for some time. Get convinced and take the lead. There are no rules. People might say you might get married and you might have kids and it become difficult and blah, 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 blah. But that's okay. Just be thorough. Do your numbers. Do your fact checking. Go for it. It will work out.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Thank you. Can I have the students waiting back here? Saurabh, once again, a big round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye.